The sound of Guernsey.
Of Guernsey. Claire Cathcart. BBC. Radio Guernsey.
So what are you doing with the children, or perhaps you got the grandchildren for the summer? Keeping them amused over the summer holidays. Going to be catching up with the author of a book. It's called Let the Souls of Our Children Sing. It's about the importance of nurturing emotional well-being in our children. But thinking about the 6-week summer break from school, what can we be doing that keeps them going, keeps them entertained, but I guess is still emotionally healthy for them? We'll be finding out in this hour of the programme.
Claire Cathcart. BBC. Radio Guernsey.
School is out for the summer. There'll be lots of children excited at the prospect of a 6-week break. But, of course, there'll also be lots of busy parents who have to maintain a household, work, entertain the kids whilst they're off as well. I won't be getting a holiday until much later on in the summer. So all 3 children have a summer where I'm negotiating work and childcare throughout the summer as well. Well, here to give us some top hints and tips is the author of a book called Let the Souls of Our Children Sing. It is Leonora Langley. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Claire. How are you?
Good, thank you. Now, what should we be doing? We've got the 6 weeks of the summer ahead of us. Some of us will be trying to negotiate work. Some of us will have just 6 weeks to keep the children entertained, whatever the weather. What are some of the things we should be thinking about when we start planning our summer holidays?
Well, I think this year in particular, Claire, quite a few parents and carers might be experiencing panicked flashbacks to lockdown, and there were school closures and the prospect, obviously, of children being bored, as you say, juggling, running a house and keeping the kids entertained too. Every family, I think, will have a different perspective on school holidays this summer. Some will be jetting off to tropical climes for a couple of weeks, although maybe they don't need to with the weather in the last couple of days. Others will be having a staycation, and there will be some who simply can't afford a holiday away at all. But I think whatever plans parents and carers might have, I think they need to be aware that their children are better with some kind of structure and sticking to a predictable routine, especially those suffering from anxiety and stress.
That can be quite difficult, though, can't it, over the summer, especially when we're negotiating things. So, for example, I've got 3 young children, and almost every day of the summer is going to be different because we're negotiating where they are each day for childcare. They might be going to grandparents, they might be going to a club. There's lots happening. And actually, we don't have that every day of school. You get up, you put your school clothes. It is quite difficult for parents who are perhaps juggling 2 or 3 things at the same time.
Yes, that is obviously the greatest problem that parents are facing. I think, though, if you can break the 6 weeks down into manageable bite-sized chunks, it's not quite so daunting, planning ahead with the use. I used to use a wall planner to highlight some of the fun activities and outings that I had in store for my son, and also creating a wall chart with stickers for tasks accomplished. But as you say, it's so difficult, the timetabling of it for so many parents. So it is a long time. And of course, we need to put the children first. I think a really wonderful thing, if it's possible, is for parents and carers to choose 2 or 3 positive behaviours in their children that they'd like to encourage, and trying possibly to ignore as many of the negative ones as possible. And I think this can work both ways. I think it can also be a good time, if parents have the time, to look at their own behaviour to help improve their communication with their children, particularly their choice of language and the tone of their voice. When we think about it, Claire, adults are grown-up children and children are growing into adults. I think there needs to be greater sensitivity and acceptance between us, which can really help cool some of the stress and anxiety that people are experiencing. In this age of double-edged sword of social media, I think one of the greatest challenges for parents and carers is trying to keep children away from the screen and possibly getting them outdoors on a nature walk or experiencing forest bathing, which can be good for the parents and the children. I think it's a precious time for peace, reflection and inspiration. It's like an opportunity to slow down, observe and be aware of the beauty of the world. Of course, there's going to be some parents who will enrol their children into a sports school, a swimming course or a performing arts production if they've got the financial means. Otherwise, I think odd days out to the beach, maybe to a water park, a boat trip, having a picnic or simply visiting a farm or garden centre can also be stimulating.
Into your research in your book, Let the Souls of Our Children Sing, have you noticed that, the pandemic has made a difference on the anxiety levels of children and perhaps how we cope with having those long periods of time off school?
Definitely. I think on an emotional level, Claire, we all know that the last 2 years have been traumatic and unsettling for everyone. So we need to be particularly sensitive to mental health issues more than ever. You know that now 1 in 6 children suffers from an identifiable mental health issue, and 12.3% has a special need. Well, in my experience of 30 years as a teacher and 15 as a counsellor, I believe now that nearly all children suffer from a special need to a greater or lesser degree. I think it can be useful for parents and carers to be mindful of setting aside times for intentional conversations with their children, where they're actively listening to them and giving them an opportunity to reflect back how they're feeling. Because in my book, a huge part of being a good enough parent I talk about is being an emotional anchor for children so that they don't feel rudderless.
One of the things as a teacher I'm curious to ask you is about how much we should be doing when it comes to sort of keeping up the skills for education. Because, I have mentioned to my children, we have a fantastic reading summer challenge here at the library here in Guernsey, which is to encourage young people to read 6 books over the summer. And I'm sort of every now and then reminding the children, as well as perhaps doing what they might automatically gravitate to, which is, the computer or perhaps the computer games, to actually say, have you done some reading today? Well, don't forget, do a little bit of reading. How much should we be encouraging this kind of thing or just letting them have a break from, over the summer?
Personally, Claire, I say have a break. I think it's a time to recharge batteries, to have a completely different experience and just get away from the pressure pot of the routine of school life, which I believe has now become an exam factory. So some good ways of dealing with stress and anxiety, especially for little ones, is to use a simple stress ball, meditation, breathing and yoga techniques, as well as EFT, I don't know if you've heard of that, emotional freedom technique, which involves tapping on the body's energy meridians to dampen down the amygdala and help children to get in touch with their inner thoughts and feelings. I think summer is about giving children an opportunity to feel like a human being rather than a human doing. I really do. So as a teacher, I was always a little bit of a rebel, to be honest with you, which is probably what helped me to write such a book that I have. I just think that, just being is such an important part of children's lives. And that doesn't mean they must go on to social media, because I believe social media encourages external validation. What we need to encourage in our children is inner validation, to have an inner life. So less internet and more internet is what I believe in. So anything where we can encourage children, into something creative, imaginative, maybe the opportunity to dream, gives them a different perspective on life. And these 6 weeks are a wonderful opportunity for making memories. And memories are so important. I talk about, childhood. It's a time for careless rapture. And we must just simply not... the trouble is parents sort of enroll themselves in this idea that their children must achieve an A star. They must get 10 GCSEs to be successful in life. But I think there's more to that in life. My book is about encouraging less cognition and logic simply because it can be counted and measured, and more about developing children's emotional well-being and the soul journey that all of us goes on in life from the cradle to the grave.
That is Leonora Langley there talking about the young people as you head into the summer. I'd like to think that there are a lot of us doing that as part of our everyday and having those conversations with our children, speaking to them as adults and just making the most of the summer, talking about getting outside. Well, there are such amazing opportunities here in Guernsey to be able to get outside. When you look at the beaches on a beautiful summer's day, they are completely packed in the summer holidays. I think here in Guernsey we have that opportunity, don't we, to be able to get outside and make the most of it. But I do know that it can be difficult, especially if, like me, over the summer you're negotiating perhaps your working time as well as trying to look after the children and sort the summer out.